People don't have success when it comes to dating, and they don't have success when it comes to relationships because they're in protection. They're not in connection. When we experience trauma, our body goes into a survival state. When you're in survival, you are operating in fear. You're in protection. There's an actual bear in the room that could potentially kill you. If you don't feel safe, you will attract a mirror image of the way that you feel inside of your body. When you truly don't know what safety feels like, dating feels hard and dating feels confusing. So if you don't do the work to regulate your nervous system first, manifestation will always feel impossible. You'll give up on it. It won't work. You'll manifest, but you'll manifest toxic partners. You'll manifest poor health. You'll manifest all the things you don't want to manifest because you're operating at that frequency.
Welcome, everyone. We're back once again with Jill Collins Connections. I'm here today with an amazing woman, Lauren Zoeller. I met Lauren at a relationships retreat a while back with Jeremy and Svetlana Newsom, who you may have followed and you know of from my other interviews here. And Lauren is amazing. I'm just so intrigued. I can't wait to work with her personally on some of these things she does. She is an expert practitioner in reparenting, generational healing, and somatic experiencing. So I'm like, when I first heard that word somatic, I'm like, what does that mean? And so we're going to find out about that today, because the real key here is, how do we manifest the relationship we want in our lives? How do we really manifest anything? But we want to really focus on love relationships. So I want to introduce you to Lauren, and Lauren's going to tell us her story a little bit, and also how she discovered all these amazing tools and how she's certified to do what she does. So I want to welcome you today, Lauren. Thanks for being here.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited that you and I are able to connect.
Yes. Yes. Thanks for agreeing to be here. I'm so happy to do that and share you with everyone. So tell us a little bit about your background and about your life and how you got into this work.
Yeah, my gosh. Just for time's sake, because I feel like we'd be here all day, to tell you a little bit more about how I got into somatic experiencing and also how I became a love, dating, and relationship expert. I like to start with my story back about 8.5 years ago. And the reason being is because we don't have all day for me to sit here and tell my story. But I launched my coaching practice about 8.5 years ago. And at that time, like most baby coaches, I was helping other coaches and consultants launch and scale their online businesses with heart. Truly, I really had no idea what I was doing. I just wanted to coach. And so that was the niche that I picked. And actually, it was working out really well for me. If you followed me on social media at that time, or if you were in my world, I was living what I like to call the epitome of a highlight reel. I was super successful in business. I was being featured in Business Insider, NBC News. I was traveling the world with all of my friends. And at that time, I had what I called my real life version of Ken. Now that the Barbie movie's out, my real life version of my Ken doll, he was traveling with me. And so on the outside, people would tell me all the time, my gosh, how do you live this life? It looks so magical and amazing. And there's like a caveat to this. What I want people to really hear is that during this time, I was also doing all of the things that we as successful high performers are taught to do, right? I was reading one personal development book every single month. I had a team of coaches and therapists. I had a robust morning routine. I would stand in front of the mirror and recite my affirmations for 20 minutes every day. And just to do what I was told I needed to do to keep up this lifestyle. And what people didn't see was that even though externally my life looked great, internally there was a whole different story happening. And my life came crashing down in a matter of 24 hours. And it came down to 3 phone calls. And I'll never forget this. It was a Wednesday morning, and I was doing what I did. I was standing in front of my mirror, reciting my morning affirmations. I was about halfway through them. And I felt this punch in my gut. And I don't know if you've ever had a moment like that where you're like, something just feels off. You don't know what it is. Nothing's happened, but you feel like something's not right. And I glanced down at my phone and I saw several missed calls from my Kindle boyfriend, from his mother. I had probably 20 missed calls from her. I'm like, what in the heck's going on? So I picked up the phone. I called her back. She told me that my boyfriend at the time, this perfect man, had checked himself into rehab for the sixth time that year. Six times. Yeah.
And you had no idea?
I had an idea because I was there for some of them, but we really thought after number 5 that that was gonna be the one. He was gonna be better. And I was just like, "Man, 6." It was my aha moment because 'cause I'm like, 6 times and I'm dealing with this, right? So that kind of went off. There was a little bit of an alarm in my system. Put the phone down. I was obviously really devastated, and a few hours later, I received my second call. The second call came from my accountant calling to let me know that my seemingly booming business was 30K in the red. And he was calling because he saw no way out because I was spending money just as quick as it was coming in. Like all this money was going out, and what I was spending was more than the business was making. So that was the second call. And then the third call that day, which came just a few hours after the second one, was from my doctor. This was the worst one. It was from my doctor calling to let me know that a biopsy that I had taken earlier that week had come back as cancer.
Oh my God.
So in less than 24 hours, here I am, right? This woman who supposedly has this highlight real life, and the rug just gets ripped completely out underneath me. And I remember Jill being so defeated because I was like, what the heck? I don't know if we can cuss here. That's
Yeah,
not what
yeah, sure.
I said, the F word. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I am in therapy. I've been in therapy for 10 years. I've been doing all of these things that we're told in the personal development world we need to do to be successful and live this beautiful life and have great relationships. And here I am. My health is gone. My relationship is dead in the water, and my business is failing. And so I had a dear friend at that time who had started seeing a somatic therapist. She had started doing somatic work. And I remember she was my best friend. I called her and I was so devastated. And she said to me, I've only been doing this work for less than a month, but I really feel like it's making a difference. I feel like you should try it out. And so I said, you know what? At this point, I'm out of money and I'm out of options. Might as well try it. So I went in for my first session with a somatic therapist, a somatic experiencing practitioner, which is what I am now. And I tell you what, I left that session that day and I felt for the first time life was manageable. And so I committed in that moment. I remember leaving that session saying to myself, I don't know what this is about, but I'm committing myself to becoming a student of the nervous system. I'm going to study this work because this is the only session I've been in where I can truly feel a shift in my physical body. And long story short, 6 short months later, I ended up finding love, healthy love for the first time in my 30s, right? In my early 30s. This was a couple of years ago. I'm now with a very wonderful man. It just kept getting better. I was able to realign my business. I went from 30K in debt to making 6 figures in 1 month, which was amazing. And then this is the best part. I eradicated my cancer scare. Gone. So this work, and in that moment, after that 6 months and all that happened, I was like, this is it. I have to get this work into as many hands as possible because the nervous system piece is usually the piece that people miss. They spend years in talk therapy, they spend years with mindset coaches, but they haven't addressed their nervous system. And
Mhm.
so I went back and I decided I was going to go through my 4-year certification program to become a somatic therapist. And now that's what I do. I help men and women heal their nervous system so that they can truly experience healthy love, which most of us have never experienced before.
Mm. Healthy love, and you're right, and most of us haven't ever experienced it, and I think that's what we're all craving today is the dating apps, and I think about when I've heard you speak in your webinars and your talks is just how to manifest and what we tend to do, and even I had a matchmaking service, and several years ago, and working with my clients, and I figured out so quickly it has nothing to do. I could give someone 100 matches, and they could sabotage it, or they just figure out a way that it's not the right person or whatever. And so quickly I realized it was really only about 20% matchmaking and it was 80% coaching. And that was where I thought I was. And this was about 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago. And so as I started to evolve, started to develop a program. After I stopped that before the pandemic, I started doing dating coaching because I was on the apps all the time. I thought, okay, I'm going to go back to the modern way of doing it. And I just saw that there's just it's very difficult to connect and to find someone who's really serious. And so when I was going through that process, I said, oh my gosh, how can I help people find that true love? Because again, it's not just about the finding the person that looks good or seems to have similar interests sometimes. It's more than that. And I love what you do. And what I was doing too is like creating a list of people that you've been with in the past and what did you like about them? What did you dislike? How did you show up? And I know you have a relationship assessment that you do, but what is different about yours that really made me pause and hold off on my dating program after I heard you speak and I worked with Svetlana and Jeremy is that it's more than that. It's not just the physical characteristics or the things you want, but it's like what we I just did Svetlana's dreams course and I thought, "Oh, this is going to be okay." And so I started creating my dream man. And I'm getting to the point here about this is it wasn't just, okay, he has to be 6 feet, he's going to be at this age, this and this. It has more to do about how am I going to feel? What is it that I want to experience? And I realized that was the tricky part. I was like in tears. I couldn't feel that. I didn't want to feel that. I didn't want to, it was so hard. I'm like, I teach this. What's wrong? And so what it was, I figured out, which is what the beauty of the dreams course for me. I still have to work on my dreams. I haven't quite executed that the way I like it. But what I got out of that was my fear, which we're going to get into about this, is my fear was because I lost my husband 7 years ago, is when I started to write anything about how I felt or where I'd be or what I'd experience and what it would look like again, is it's just going to be taken away from me. And so I could write down a checklist, no problem. Yeah, let me just the facts, ma'am. Let me tell you all the facts. But when I had to feel that stuff, it just stopped me dead in my tracks. So I say that story to say that I think so many of us are in that space of how do we dive deeper? And even though we can go and read all these books, and I've spent a fortune on personal development, and I love this stuff. I love it. I've read every book there is to read. But I'm in the place probably a lot of times I'm getting back thank God for Jeremy and Svetlana and people like you that are just doing so much amazing more diving deep work. But how do we get there? And how do we really have that sense of, I'm okay?
Yeah. Yeah. And here's what I'll say to that. Losing a spouse, loss of any kind, it's traumatic. And when we speak about trauma, I always like to give the clinical definition of trauma because I think it helps people. The word trauma is thrown around like, I don't know, like candy anymore nowadays. Everybody's, oh, that was traumatic. I'm like, you don't even know what that means. Look at the clinical definition of trauma. It is the stuck psychosomatic response to an overwhelming event that was too fast, too much, or too soon for the body to properly regulate, for the body to properly get to safety. If we think about death, especially with a loved one, it's overwhelming. It's too fast, usually. Even if you're prepared for it, it's too fast.
Mhm.
It's much and it's too soon, right? It hits all three markers on what trauma looks like. And what happens is that when we experience trauma and our body goes into a survival state to keep us safe so that we don't have to feel pain. And we'll go into one of four, or sometimes all four survival responses, which is fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And if our body gets stuck in one of those spaces, we can't actually feel what safety feels like, which is what you were experiencing in that moment, Jill. You were experiencing like, oh my gosh, it was so overwhelming to lose him. I'm stuck in this freeze response. Like, I don't even want to think about it. I can't go there. I can't access emotion. And that survival response is stuck in your nervous system. So until we go in and learn how to renegotiate that survival response and get you back to safety, connection and dreaming will never feel possible or it'll never feel easy because your body's still stuck in survival. And this is why people can't find you're right. It has nothing to do with the dating. It has nothing to do with the matchmakers. It has everything to do with how safe someone feels in their body. Because if you don't feel safe, you will attract a mirror image of the way that you feel inside of your body. It's just science. We've been able to dissect all of it. So if you're in survival and you're in one of those four heightened responses, that's exactly what you're going to attract in. You're either going to attract in nothing because you're so frozen, or you're going to attract in men who ghost, men who won't commit because you are in that space of flight within your own system. You don't feel safe to connect, right? So this is why the somatic work is so important in getting to the root of it.
Wow. Yeah, that just you're like reading my mail. And that's so amazing. The fourth one you said, because I've always heard about fight, flight, freeze, and you said or fun?
Fun,
Fawn.
little
F-A
baby fun, FAWN.
okay. What
And
is fawn?
yeah, so fawning is people pleasing.
Oh,
So yeah. So it's if we think about the bear, because people always use the bear analogy, right? The bear in the room. You're either going to run, which is flight. You're going to fight them, which is fight. You're going to play dead, which is freeze. Fawn, believe it or not, is usually what people go to when the other three don't work. And that means I'm going to shut down my truth and I'm going to try my best to befriend you in hopes that you won't maul me to death. It's people pleasing. And it's a survival response. Yeah. It's
wow.
and the way that it manifests in the body is that it's a parasympathetic shutdown. We're in dorsal vagal shutdown. We actually are, if we look at it from the physiology, our heart rate slows, right? All the blood rushes back into the internal organs. We actually go into freeze. And we're talking, but we don't even know that we're talking because we're just trying to be accepted.
That was the first stage. That was right after because my husband died suddenly, like in a second running. So that was like just going through the motions. I was like this, I could just, it was almost like I was watching my body perform. It was doing a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It was in survival.
Totally.
You were just surviving. Your body went into autopilot. And here's the thing about survival. I need everybody to hear this. In any moment, your body is either choosing connection or protection. So if you're in survival, you cannot connect, which is why people don't have success when it comes to dating and they don't have success when it comes to relationships because they're in protection. They're not in connection. Right. And so that's where your body was going. It was just going, I need to protect myself. There's a lot of trauma happening. It's too fast, too much, too soon. I need to protect. The problem is that if we don't have the tools to allow those protection mechanisms to regulate in the system, we get stuck there.
I've seen that with a lot of widows, and I didn't do widows groups or anything, but I did go work with a few. That was my area when I started coaching after working with getting certified and doing relationships, is those that 10 years later are behaving in ways that it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
And there's no judgment, but there's this never washing the pillow or the pillowcase, and it's 10 years later. Well, so for me, mine was like, I think it was the freeze, but then
Mhm.
it was okay, who's next? I got to meet somebody. Okay, that happened. That's too bad. Stuff it down. I'm good. I'm good. Oh, yeah, he died 6 months ago. I'm fine. Really, let's keep going. Keep going. I'm good. And so then that was maybe what was that like the flight? No, that wasn't flight.
So that would be flight
That'd be flight.
because you're going into, okay, I have to go. I have to go into something. I have to move. I have to take action, not allowing your body to actually fully be in the grief. Be it and feel it and allow it to regulate in yours. Because here's the thing, the only way out is through. When we're doing somatic work and I'm working with a client and I'm tracking the nervous system and we get to moments of really intense grief and sadness, we don't want to go over the threshold and outside of what's called the window of tolerance. But I will let the client be in activation. I want them to be there because they have to feel it fully in order for it to deactivate and reverse in the system. And oftentimes people don't want to feel grief.
Yeah.
It's too much. And so when you're in an SE session, to have an empathetic witness to hold the space while you feel the grief and allow it to move through your system allows that response to renegotiate in your system.
Wow. Yeah, I think that was something that everybody kept saying, "Do you have to grieve?" And, grieve. And at the time, I just started drinking a lot more. And I was going through that process and staying really busy and just like, just trying to look like whatever would be fun. Everyone said, just stay busy. Let's keep her busy. Let's keep doing things. Let's go out. Let's do stuff. And it really wasn't. So I would say my grieving didn't really start until I stopped drinking. And then I had to feel. And that was 4 years ago. And I went, okay, shit, you're going to feel everything. You can't selectively feel. You either feel it all or you don't feel any of it. And so that's when I started to go down that path of learning about that. Oh, I'm so sensitive now. I'm so self-aware. When I feel something in my body, I go, oh, what was that? What did I just see? What did I just feel? What did somebody just say? What was my thought just now? And then I deal with it right then. I didn't have any tools to deal with that before. I didn't even know what that was. And so that's really interesting. So then that would be that. And then I love the fourth one you said, we talked about freezing, but fighting too. I guess fighting could be resisting or
Yeah.
an example of that.
Or physical. What I see in relationships, what I see a lot is when two couples just start nitpicking at each other. It's like they don't say, so they start to nitpick. And that's the fight response. But the thing is that you can see it in your system. If you find yourself, if you're in a situation, your hands start to clench, your body is going into fight. And most of the time, we're not going to be like, I'm in the fight response. But your body is giving you that signal, even if there's not threat present. And that's where we start to disconnect. That's where we start to choose protection over connection when we don't actually need to save ourselves in that moment. It's just that's what our body's doing to keep us safe in that moment. And that's where it gets us in trouble.
Because it's a pattern. I think it's almost a learned pattern. Even if we don't have to anymore and we're safe, we still are so used to it. It becomes a habit that this is what our body does.
Yep.
This time when you wake up in the morning, whenever you do whatever, it's this, I encounter this situation, I'm going to feel even though I'm safe.
Yes.
The
We get,
last one. Yeah, go ahead.
and to just add on to that, in essence, that's what a trigger is. When, and the thing about trauma, when we're talking about these stuck survival responses, is they get coupled. And I like to describe this as like a string of Christmas lights.
Hmm.
Something happened to you at one point that was never renegotiated in your body, and you were triggered by something similar to that event down the line, then that response just starts to grow. And next thing you have this whole string of Christmas lights. And 2 years later, you walk by a man in a blue shirt. You were in a wreck 4 years ago with a car that was blue. And next thing you're in a full blown survival response and you don't know why. It's because trauma gets coupled in the system and it starts to override. It becomes your baseline. So we have to be able to unplug the Christmas tree lights and go back to where it originated so that we can start to renegotiate that.
Sure, because there's reinforcement. If if I'm constantly seeing a reinforcement or proving that trauma, as keep reinforcing with more of the same thing, it's reinforcing that belief in subconsciously in my body, I assume my nervous system.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so then the fourth one is fawn, and that's people pleasing. And oh gosh, stop talking about me. I grew up and I learned that behavior. And so when all else fails, if someone gets upset or seem scary, okay, how do we keep this? How do we make everything work okay? It just made me a great politician. I'm a great diplomat. I'm great at reading a room, reading someone and saying, okay, that's how I'm a great connector. It's building a network of community. I can tell when I want to bring everybody in. I want to include everybody. I love that kind of thing. It's who I am, which is a good thing. But on the other side, it's learning to use my voice and standing up for what I believe in, which is a newer thing for me to really embrace that at another level in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And so that's a tough one because we end up in relationships, I think, where we lose ourselves. It's what I always call the chameleon effect. We end up being whatever we think they want us to be to fit into this role that is never right. It's never true. But through our mind and through our lens, we think if we show up this certain way, that's going to keep them. And so then we're always shocking. And it's like, not what they wanted. They wanted the person that showed up in the beginning who was probably we were more like ourselves than when we start to transform and alter ourselves over time.
Yeah. I have an interesting story about this because I too was raised in that same environment. I grew up in a long line of Polish women.
Yeah.
And
I'm part Polish too, half Polish, actually.
so if people don't know much about Polish women, they love family. They love making other people happy. And my great grandmother came over here from Poland. And and this is how generational trauma works. This is why I wanted to point this out. When she came over here from Poland, her husband said to her, "Listen, just do whatever you need to do. We just need to be liked. We just need to be accepted." Right. And so at a very young adult age, she was taught that her needs don't matter. Everyone else needs to be taken care of first. So my grandmother and my mother, I learned from the moment I was born, you do not get to eat your food until everyone is eaten first. Right? Like you don't get to sit down and eat till everyone's eaten first. The reason I want to tell this story, Jill, is because fast forward to me being in my late 20s and 30s, what I left out about my story earlier was that this alcoholic I dated, he was not the first alcoholic or the second or the third. He was the fourth alcoholic in a row that I dated.
I've done that.
Yeah. And the reason when I started to do this work was that I realized that my nervous system felt safe in fawning. It felt safe and feeling like I could save these men.
Oh, yes.
I would discount my own needs and I would get them to rehab, or I would make sure that they were taken care of, because if they were taken care of, then I was worthy of love. They'd never leave.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So
Done
this
that.
dysregulation, yeah, this dysregulation in my system though, it was so prevalent that no matter, I used to tell my mom, we used to laugh about it. Now it's not funny because I'm like, there was just a lot of dysregulation. I'm like, if there was a alcoholic within a 10-mile radius, he'd find his way to me. Wouldn't. It's just that my nervous system felt safe in that dynamic because that is what it learned as a child.
Sure.
Till I went in to regulate that fawn response and feel what safety, because I was never modeled what safe connection was supposed to feel like because mom didn't have it. And so until I went in and regulated that response, I continued to attract alcoholics because it was what was familiar to my nervous system.
Wow. Yep, I can totally resonate and relate to that. Yeah, it's a really I think so many of us are in that have been in that space of whatever patterns that we have that we grew up with and we're modeling. Yeah, for me, it was definitely that. It's attracting people that I could fix it, people to fix, people to coach, people to, as Spet used to say, broken wings, no more broken wings, people. And it's, yeah, I've done that. But there's some satisfaction in feeling like we can rescue them, we can make them better. And it's like, not attracting anybody that I wasn't attracting people that were already fixed.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
already had their self their yeah, that's brilliant, that's brilliant. I would love to go more into because I know that we talked about this before we started, is why did we start with the somatic healing in this process? Because you really, as you said, you can't manifest until you fix this part. Tell us
Mhm.
about that.
Yeah. So I say all the time, I always tell people when I teach manifestation, I'm probably going to teach you something that the other manifestation teachers aren't talking about. And I believe truly, and this was what was prevalent in my life, that you cannot manifest if you're operating out of dysregulation, if you're operating out of survival. And when we look and we break down manifestation, there really are only two emotions in the world, there's fear and there's love. When you're in survival, you are operating in fear, you're in protection. There's an actual bear in the room that could potentially kill you. And when this becomes your baseline, even though cognitively you can say, I want to get married by this time next year to a man that is aligned and beautiful and conscious, whatever. If underneath the surface, your nervous system still feels that's not possible. It's in shame, it's in anger, it's in sadness, it's in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Then what we know about manifestation is that your reality is a reflection of your most predominant frequency. If you're in survival, you are going to attract survival. Going to attract, and if we look at my story, I was attracting alcoholics because I was in fawn. I was people pleasing my way through life.
Mm.
And so if you don't do the work to regulate your nervous system first, manifestation will always feel impossible. You'll give up on it. It won't work. You'll manifest, but you'll manifest toxic partners. You'll manifest money that goes out as soon as it comes in. You'll manifest poor health. You'll manifest all the things you don't want to manifest because you're operating at that frequency.
Wow. Wow. And so really, I loved at this point to have you mentioned how people can work with you and your program on somatic. We can talk about it at the end too, and we'll drop the links at the bottom. But this is so fantastic. I really want to jump in on some of this that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about how people can reach you and what you offer.
Yeah.
Space.
So my signature program is called the Align Love Collective. It's a beautiful program. It's a 3-month container. We teach all of my therapists that work underneath me, myself included, we're all somatic experiencing practitioners, somatic therapists. We really work on regulating the nervous system. So getting to the root of your relational ruptures, your dysregulated nervous system patterns. We then do the nervous system work to be able to regulate these dysregulated responses. And then we teach you how to manifest from that space of safety. So, in essence, that's my programs in a nutshell. You can find out about them at laurenzoeller.com. If you're interested too, you can just reach out to me on Instagram at laurenzoeller. We just, Jill, released a brand new quiz called What is Blocking Me from Healthy Love? It's a free quiz. It's loaded with all types of information that talks about where you are manifesting from, which one of those survival responses is alive in your body. So everybody can go and take advantage of that. If you go to my Instagram page, just shoot me a DM and we'll send it over. And I think we gave you the link. I think you're going to
We
drop
do.
it.
Yeah, I'm going to drop all that in the bottom. We'll definitely get all that in the description for people so they have access and they can find you for sure. And so thank you for sharing that because I know people are going to so be interested in this. This is so, to me, cutting edge because I didn't know much about it. And I know a lot of people are, this is going to be new for them. So tell me about a little more about some of your, I love some of the lines that you have that you said in your webinars and all that. It's if he's, let's, because I want to talk a little bit more about relationships and manifesting, assuming that we have done the somatic work and we've regulated our nervous system, we're ready to manifest. What are some of the things you say? I love this is if they're not a hell yes, they're a hell no. And that one I just went, that was my North Star. For after I heard you say that, I went, that is brilliant. And you also say we can't have it all. We can definitely have it all. And so tell me about that. How do we deal with that? And not settle for what you also say is we don't have time to entertain potential. I love there's that broken wings person, right? Don't the fix people to fix the people that aren't ready is how do we do that? And
Yeah.
how to find that in the relationship when once we are aligned.
Yeah. It's so funny because I think that we make dating really difficult. And when you're not coming from safety in your system, when you truly don't know what safety feels like, dating feels hard and dating feels confusing because you're trying to, in essence, fit a square peg into a round hole. When what's so beautiful about, I know you spoke about Svetlana's Dreams course. What's so beautiful about that Dreams course is that she has you get really specific on what it is that you desire in partnership. We also do that in a similar way in my program by setting your non-negotiables. But what's really beautiful about that is that you then have this litmus test of everything that you really want in partnership. Now, here's the problem. What happens is that when you get out there and you date, and I say, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no, people get into a dating situation. They're like, yeah, but like, he almost checks all the boxes. And there's only one box he doesn't check. So maybe I'm just being too picky. In this moment, your nervous system is operating out of survival. Your nervous system is saying, I don't feel safe enough to claim everything that I want. So I'm just going to settle. I'm going to fawn so that maybe it will eventually be what I want it to be. So when I say you get to have it all, and if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no, those statements don't really make sense to someone who's in survival, who hasn't done the nervous system work. Because dating really is black and white. They're either everything on your list or they're not. But we try to make it so complicated by making excuses for people and settling for less and accepting breadcrumbs and trying to psychoanalyze someone's behavior.
Mm.
Right? And the truth is, and I'm a perfect testimonial for Svat's Dreams course. I've done all of this nervous system work, went through the Dreams course. I found the man that was everything on my list. There was no compromise. There was not one single compromise that I made with him. But I had to get to a place where I was so safe in myself and so secure in my nervous system that I was able, and I like to tell people this because it gives hope, hopefully. The man that I dated before Sean checked all the boxes but one. And the
Oh,
one box he didn't check, I want kids. And he was a maybe for kids, a maybe, not a no. He was a maybe. And I said, maybe's not enough. I need a yes. And so I had to say no. this is a hell no because it's not a hell yes. And then right after I did that, Sean dropped right in. Yeah, you've got to be brave enough and courageous enough to be able to say no, but you have to know safety in your system in order to do that without making excuses for it.
I can see that because I think I get the distinction now because a lot of times we can this is where I was going into that space of, like, if they're not a hell yes, they're a hell no, is then I'd question, okay, I really learned to trust my intuition in the past year or 2. Okay, I can sense it right away if it's a yes or no. And then that's when I'm really in tune and aligned with my inner being, with my higher power, with God. And when I'm in that space, it's really clear and it's easy and it flows and it's just a got it. I know. And then I can also at some point see my thoughts, my mind trying to talk myself out of it or into it. And I'm aware of that. I'm like, ah, funny. You're trying to okay, get it. No, we're good. Thank you. And then when I'm not in that space, if I'm in a feeling of scarcity, or maybe I'm not if in one area of my life, if I'm not performing in a way I want to in work or something like that, I can sense that survival, as you're calling it. I would have said scarcity before, but I like survival because I think that makes so much sense. Is then suddenly it becomes confusing. It's then maybe they're okay. They don't want to get married again, but do I really need to be married again? I don't know. Maybe I'm being too, like you said, too picky. And then, but then then I'd go into the state of, oh, if they're not a hell yes or hell no, and ego's kicking in, and I'm going like, oh, you're just finding a way to protect yourself. And so everyone's a hell no. It's okay, so that's not working either. So you've really opened my eyes to seeing why that there's that the bounce between back and forth, this dance between that sometimes it feels right, sometimes it doesn't. And it's all about survival and it's all about the nervous system and being in survival mode. Because sometimes I am not in survival mode and it's like I know it, I feel it, I'm great. And other times I'm in there. And I never quite could figure out when or how or what it was. Mm, it's
Yeah.
brilliant.
So dropping it here first, I have a book that's coming out
Yeah.
uh, next year called The Missing Language of Love. And it talks about this. It talks all about, and the subtitle is Connection Beyond the Butterflies. And this is what I talk about. It's just being able to understand, and the missing, just for everyone listening, the missing language of love is the language of the nervous system. Most people were not and are not taught to speak that language. So this confusion that you're talking about, it's just because it's like you're in a room full of people speaking Spanish and you have no idea what the heck's going on because you don't speak Spanish. It's the same thing in our bodies. If we were never taught to speak the language of our nervous system, we don't know what's happening. It's really freaking confusing because we don't know how to listen in and actually speak to it. So that in essence is what we have to learn.
Wow, the language of our nervous system. That's incredible. That's incredible. This is cutting edge stuff that again, we don't see this every day and hear about this. And you're really doing some great work. And so thank you for spreading this with others because it just feels so right. It seems so right. It's the missing link for so many people is that like you said, you were doing everything right before when you were at the height of everything. And so you thought the perfect life. And then it's so disciplined. And then boom, it all came crashing down. And it's okay, I've learned, okay, so you got to love yourself when all this stuff's happening. Okay, we can do that. But there's still that fear of that, still that uneasiness. It's how do I always feel that way? And how do I constant? Because for me, I've noticed over the years is giving up all these like vices, these material vices, like whether it be drinking, smoking, sex, I don't know, binge watching TV, food. I don't eat. I got nothing. I got nothing left there's nothing's working anymore. So it's okay. You got to go somewhere. And so where do I get that feeling of relief? I guess would be the word, right? So what I found is like through meditation really helped me tap in and to feel grounded, but I still sense that there's that other thing and that's the nervous system. And I think we can alter it, but I think it's also it sounds to me maybe to help me here, but it's being aware. The meditation we tap in and the nervous system is altered in that state. But I think we have to know what's going on sometimes too and be aware of how to like driving it or directing it.
Yeah. And I'll say this, meditation can actually be very dysregulating to someone who's in flight. If you're the type of person who experiences flight as your baseline and you try to sit down to meditate and you feel like you've got 8,000 thoughts going on and you like will be there for 5 minutes, but you weren't really there. You were just thinking about everything. Your body doesn't feel safe enough to sit in meditation. And so the beauty of nervous system work and working with a somatic experiencing practitioner, somatic therapist, is that we can renegotiate those survival responses in your system so that you can eventually sit down and meditate and not feel like there's 8,000 thoughts going on. And to me, and again, this may ruffle some feathers because people are like, well, if you can't meditate, you need to meditate longer. I'm like, yeah, but if somebody's in survival and it's not safe for them to sit there with their eyes closed and meditate because something horrific happened to them 10, 12 years ago. And every time they sit down and close their eyes, they feel like they are going to be in trouble or they're going to be hurt, then you can't sit there and meditate longer. They can't physically do it. Their body can't do it. So we have to be able to start looking at our bodies from a trauma informed lens. And
Oh,
so, and this is why when I just spoke about this morning, about like breathing and tapping and cold plunges and meditation and all of these things that are being shoved down our throat to do, they are not regulating to everybody who is in a survival response where that modality is not going to serve them.
wow.
So we have to start looking at, this is this is what's so beautiful about somatic therapy is that it really is the only modality where you can renegotiate that trauma. Work with a somatic therapist. You will not need to work with them for the rest of your life. This is why my program's 3 months. I don't want to see you after my program. I don't need to. Well, that's the beauty of this work and really understanding that in your own body.
Again, so cutting edge to me, what you're saying, because I think we all, especially in the personal development world, those of us that are really into that, is that we copy and hear all the tips, tricks, and this. We go to different things. We start with the certain things, and then we go to this, and then we go to that, and everyone's doing it, and it works for them. So why isn't it working for me? And then there's this self judgment, and then it's okay. I'm going to learn to love myself and be kind and gentle myself to for myself. And then I won't, okay, it's okay if I don't do it that way. I'll find another way. And then it's constantly this journey to figuring out how to crack the code to where we feel okay. And I've seen so many people, this is going to help so many people today. I'm just so excited, is that they're seeking how to crack the code, how to finally get that one program, that next book, that whatever that seminar is going to be, that next coach, whatever it is, that's going to finally crack the code where they go, oh, shoot. Now I know all this stuff I did. This makes sense. Okay. Now I'm good. I'm healed. I've graduated. Life is good. And no one is there. Almost no one that I know is there. And I'm not saying it, we always say too that life's a journey. We're always growing. And when we're not growing, you're dying. But there's got to be a sense at some point that we're satisfied with our lives and that we're learning and growing, not out of this desperation to get somewhere in order to be okay.
Amen. Yes. 1,000.
Mm.
And it's the missing piece. It really truly is.
You are so brilliant. I'm so amazed. I'm loving this. So here's another thing that I have to ask is because we talked about meditation and that to me is I'm still struggling with the regular being consistent and all that with it. And I'm like always asking myself, what is the resistance? Why can't you just, the mat's like laying right there. I step over it every day. And it's, what's up? Oh, I'll do I got to do my taxes. When I know I have to do my taxes or clean the dish, clean the house, something's up. You don't want to do it. What's the resistance? And it's not that I don't have the time. And I'm like, so something, when I do it, I love it. And I'm really good at it. I can get there. I can really go. But it's just getting that routine where I'm like, anyway, but so that's something. But so we've talked about meditation. And then the big thing now that is going around in the personal development and all this betting ourselves circles is plant-based medicine and medicine journeys, ayahuasca, microdosing. That seems to be the answer for everybody now. And that to me, I have no, I know for me personally how I feel for me, but everyone's talking about it. And this is the magic cure. If you just do that, because it was oh, you can do, and then some people say, oh no, meditation, you'll get there without it. So we've already talked about meditation. What about this? And is this, because it's a little scary. I've heard good and bad experiences from people who've done it, and it can really mess up people I've heard. And others, it's like it's the best thing that ever happened to them. So what is your thought on that?
Yeah, love this question. Here's my take on plant medicine. What plant medicine does is it lifts the veil. And when we talk about the veil, we're talking about reality that we're currently in because plant medicine does alter your brain. And what it does is it allows you to tap in deeper to your subconscious and into your nervous system. And it lifts the everyday reality veil. Now, I think that can be a great thing if you have the proper care attached to it. The problem is that most people are not doing nervous system work before they do plant medicine. They are not getting it facilitated by a trained trauma professional. They're just going out and doing mushrooms and hoping for the best. And then here's the most important part, they're not reintegrating what comes up for them in the ceremony with a trained practitioner after they lift the veil. So, do I believe that plant medicine can be beneficial? 1000%, because it helps us access parts of our brain that hold on to stored trauma that we sometimes can't access in normal everyday life. The problem is that most people are not working alongside an SEP or a somatic therapist or someone who has been highly trained in administering and dosing plant medicine to be able to make sure that this person is okay on the other side. And to be honest, it's a drug. Even you could have the most trained professional think that they're dosing you accordingly, and your body's going to do what your body's going to do. So, what I do tell people is you can get the same effect by working with an SEP over an extended period of time. I'm not saying that I poo plant medicine and I don't think it's great. There are a lot of SEPs who administer plant medicine, but you just need to know what you're getting into before you go into it. And you need to make sure that if you make the decision to do it, that you have proper support on the front end, during, and on the back end, or else you could really hurt yourself and also hurt the people that love you.
That's a great answer and really enlightening about how it lifts the veil. And that what I get is that we really need to be working on with a somatic practitioner first to work on the nervous system beforehand. And that makes perfect sense. It's almost this fearful. I can just imagine the little girl who's scared and goes in, and all of a sudden she's exposed and she's standing there and she doesn't know how to cope with what comes up.
Yeah.
And she's running around going, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this." And the nervous system's all freaked out because it hasn't been cared for, or I'm trying to think of a layman's way to say it, but it's nurtured and regulated or stabilized to be able to go, "Ah, okay, I see what's happening here." And from what I've heard from people who've done it, I've never done it, but from a lot of people that I've heard, you really don't know what's gonna happen. You don't
Right.
know. Some people go, "Oh my god, it was amazing. I felt the most amazing things," and other people were terrified. They saw things they didn't know about. It triggered them in so many ways, and it's so you just don't really know.
No, you absolutely don't. And that's why, and I'll speak to my own experience. I have not done a lot. I've done 2 to 3 ceremonies, all 3 of them with trained practitioners. And I had a pretty traumatic event come up in one of them. And I couldn't imagine coming out of that and not having my practitioner there and not having those sessions afterwards to actually process what came up. If I didn't have that, it would have spiraled me into a really bad place, a really bad place. And even going through that, I'm not quite sure if I would go through it again because it all came in so fast. And so you just have to be prepared for really anything when you do something like that because you're altering your normal reality and you are lifting that veil and things come in quick.
So it's repressed memories could come up. It could just different things like that. Is that right?
This is crazy, but I had an experience where I was my grandmother and there was a sexual assault situation. And it ended up bringing up a sexual assault situation that I had when I was in my 20s. And I started to do some research and realized that it had happened to my grandmother as well. So it was generational. And I was realizing, like, holy cow, this is so much deeper than just me. This goes,
Mm,
and I had to process all of that, not just for me, but also for my grandmother and everything else that came up in it. So it lifts that veil and it will show you things. And you just have to be prepared. You have
okay. So wise. So this is a great companion or to a starting point and to get this right first, to work with a somatic therapist, an expert, and then have that along the journey, be prepared before, during, and after. Really great advice.
to last thing I'll say to that, Jill, too, is make sure it's someone who, like, I am an SCP and I'm a somatic therapist, but I do not administer and I do not work with people who are doing psilocybin and ayahuasca journeys. I don't do that. I can facilitate aftercare, but just make sure if for anyone listening, if you do decide to go down that route, make sure you do your research and find someone who can be with you before, during, and after.
Great advice, because I've been invited to so many things like before an event or after an event, and there's just not a lot of details, and it's just always on word of mouth. Oh my God, it's great. And we love and trust people, and we go, oh my God, they're amazing. So if they're recommending it, it's got to be great. And this is a serious decision to me. It's not just hey, let's go try a new restaurant down the street. So yeah, and if it doesn't work out, it's just a bad meal. Move on next to try again. Oh gosh, this is brilliant. And I would love to ask you before we finish up is tell us what's next for you and just give us some of your I always talk about I call it love porn, but like friends of mine who are in such wonderful relationships, give us some inspiration. Tell us about your journey a little bit of how you talked about how you met Sean and all that, but what's next for you all? And I just have loved seeing your transformation on your social media and hearing from you.
Thank you. Yeah. So next for me, I already kind of let the cat out of the bag, but I have a book yeah, coming out next year, which is really exciting. And I'm actually relaunching my podcast. So you need to be on my podcast.
Yay. Have
We're
to.
relaunching next couple of months. So it's going to be called the Aligned Love Podcast. Check
Okay.
that out on my website. Sean's going to make some appearances on the podcast too. So as far as him and I are concerned, as far as love porn and some inspiration, man, we both have done so much work, right? And what I want people to really hear is that relationships are still, they don't like to say difficult. They're not difficult, but you have to be committed to growth within partnership. And so even though you may follow us on social and it looks like we have this magical life, we also have down days, right? We have down days and we commit to growth and we commit to communication. And that's how we keep our relationship alive. But him and I are working on a little something together too that's going to be launching at the beginning of next year. Just keep your eyes peeled. Follow me on the socials to get the information on it.
Definitely. We sure will. We sure will. And I love the fact I noticed recently, you know how sometimes we all have friends or people that we know that we follow on social like Instagram and we like their stuff because they're friends and people we know. But I'm telling you, I save and I've probably highlighted or tabbed more of your posts than anyone. And I have a relationships highlight private section that I just put it, file it. I'm like, oh, this is good. Oh, this is good. Y'all have got to find her on social media and follow this podcast. She's starting back up. And I saw you have a YouTube channel. I should encourage you to try that too, because I think that's amazing.
I need to
And
pick your brain. I really
I have been working hard on this. I have a great coach, Evan Carmichael, who's been helping me for the past year and on this. And so, yeah, I'm really blessed with some great resources and ideas. We're killing it. So I'm really happy.
love that so much. And I'll say this too, Jill. I did not speak to this earlier, but I don't know if there's anybody that's listening that would be interested in this. I am launching a certification program for coaches and therapists who want to become trauma informed practitioners.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'm not announcing it publicly until the 15th of August,
Okay.
but or in October, we've already had 3 groups go through it in a private channel. We did 3 beta groups. But if you are interested in figuring out how to be with and renegotiate trauma, then it's called the Trauma Informed Relational Somatics Advanced Practitioner Certification Program. So we would love to have you. All the details will be dropped in a few weeks, but
Yeah, we're gonna probably have this interview coming out next Friday, so hopefully that'll be around the time. So we'll be able to put that out in the links. So you'll have to share that with me so we can share that with people because I know a lot of people watch this are coaches already, and this may be a perfect add-on for them.
yeah, it's great. And that's who it's for. It's for coaches, therapists, and social workers who want to be with trauma and renegotiate.
I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much, Lauren. This is what I do with the channel: is connecting people with people, information, places, experiences, and resources. And this is to me what it's all about. Is when I find someone amazing that I hear, I get to meet. I'm like, I just want to spread it with the world. It's like you guys have got to hear her. She is so good. And so you're just one of these. This is probably I just am so grateful today. This is one of the most beautiful interviews and discussions. I hope we can share this and spread this more with what you're up to because people need to know about this work you're doing. It's so good. The somatic work.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
It's such a light. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, everyone, stay tuned for the next episode and definitely stay connected and subscribe. And hey, put some comments in here and tell us what you think about our talk today. We'd love to hear more and get to know what you think, what you want to hear more of, and definitely share it with other people too who might need it. All right. Thanks again and stay connected. Take care.